In Hollywood, there are blockbuster directors, and then there is James Cameron, the filmmaker behind Titanic and Avatar, a man who built a career on achieving what others considered impossible. When critics argued that nobody would care about blue aliens in 2009, Cameron delivered the highest grossing film in history. When skeptics suggested audiences had forgotten Pandora after a 13-year gap, Avatar: The Way of Water sailed past $2.3 billion worldwide. But today, for the first time, the Avatar franchise appears vulnerable. The release of Avatar: Fire and Ash revealed something that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. Audience enthusiasm for Pandora may finally be cooling. While the film still earned enormous sums by Hollywood standards, it failed to match the height of its predecessors, raising difficult questions about the future of a franchise that once looked unstoppable. As James Cameron prepares Avatar 4 and Avatar 5, the challenge is no longer whether these movies can be made. It is whether audiences still care enough to turn them into a cultural phenomena they once were. Hello and welcome to BoxOfficeBhaskar. This channel exists to pull back the curtain on the global film industry. I examine film through three lenses: the business behind it, the content within it, and the audience behavior that drives it all. If you want to understand film at a deeper level, you're in the right place. To understand the challenges facing Avatar today, we first need to remember how dominant the franchise once was. When the original Avatar arrived in 2009, it was far more than just another blockbuster. It was a technological breakthrough that transformed the way audiences experience cinema, particularly through its groundbreaking use of 3D technology and visual effects. The film reportedly cost around $237 million to make and went on to earn nearly $2.92 billion worldwide, becoming the highest grossing movie ever made at that time. More importantly, Avatar became a genuine cultural event. People weren't simply watching the movie, they were discussing it, revisiting it, and marveling at the world of Pandora. Then came a 13-year gap that many believed would destroy the franchise's momentum. Instead, Avatar: The Way of Water proved the doubters wrong. Despite carrying a reported production budget of approximately $400 million, with total costs including marketing estimated to exceed $600 million, the sequel generated roughly $2.32 billion worldwide. Once again, Cameron had demonstrated an extraordinary ability to create must-see cinematic events, reinforcing the belief that Avatar was somehow immune to the franchise fatigue affecting almost every other major Hollywood property. On paper, the third movie, Avatar: Fire and Ash, was an undeniable success. The film earned approximately $1.49 billion worldwide, making it one of the biggest releases of 2025, and a result that most studios would eagerly celebrate. However, the real story emerges when those numbers are compared to the earlier films. Relative to the original Avatar, the third installment earned nearly 49% less, while compared to The Way of Water, it experienced a decline of roughly 36%. This is not a catastrophic collapse by any means, but it is a clear indication that the franchise is moving in a downward direction. The financial reality becomes even more complicated when production costs are considered. Reports suggest that Fire and Ash carried a production budget of around $400 million, while the combined cost of production and marketing may have easily approached $500 million. That means Avatar remains a franchise that requires extraordinary revenue simply to justify its enormous investment. A billion-dollar box office performance would normally be regarded as a spectacular achievement. Yet, for Avatar, it increasingly feels like the minimum expectation rather than an exceptional outcome. The fact that James Cameron himself discussed the possibility that the future of the franchise could depend on the performance of Fire and Ash indicates that even he may recognize the growing pressure surrounding Avatar's long-term prospects. The greatest threat facing Avatar today is not competition from other franchises, but familiarity. The first film introduced audiences to Pandora and delivered an experience unlike anything they had ever seen before. The second film expanded that world while benefiting from more than a decade of built-up anticipation. By the time the third movie arrived, however, The novelty that once defined Avatar had inevitably begun to diminish. For years, Cameron benefited from a unique advantage: scarcity. Audiences waited 13 years for The Way of Water, turning its release into a global event. But as Avatar becomes a more traditional franchise with regular installments, it becomes increasingly vulnerable to the same challenges that have affected Marvel, Star Wars, and many other blockbuster brands. Audience conversations around Fire and Ash frequently reflect this shift. Many observers argue that part of The Way of Water's success came from curiosity and nostalgia after such a long absence, while future sequels would naturally struggle to recreate that sense of anticipation. Others noted that while the visual effects remain extraordinary, audiences may now take those technological achievements for granted. The first Avatar changed the industry, the second refined the formula, but the third faced a difficult reality that spectacle alone may no longer be enough to guarantee record-breaking box office performance. The good news for James Cameron is that Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 remain firmly in development, with Disney continuing to support the franchise and its long-term vision. The challenge, however, is that the financial model underpinning Avatar appears increasingly difficult to sustain. Cameron has openly acknowledged that these films have become hideously expensive and has spoken about finding ways to reduce production costs and improve efficiency on future installments. That admission is significant because it suggests that even Cameron recognizes the risks associated with maintaining such enormous budgets in an environment where box office returns may be gradually declining. If the trend continues, from nearly $2.9 billion for the first film to $2.3 billion for the second, and around $1.5 billion for the third, the future installments may face uncomfortable questions. What happens if Avatar earns $1.2 billion worldwide? What happens if Avatar 5 earns just $1 billion worldwide? Those would still rank among the biggest box office performances in the world, yet they might not deliver the level of profitability expected from productions costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Ultimately, the challenge facing Cameron is no longer technological, it is creative. He must find a way to restore the sense of wonder, discovery, and urgency that once made audiences feel that a trip to Pandora was an event they could simply not miss. James Cameron has already achieved something remarkable with Avatar. The franchise has generated nearly $6.7 billion worldwide across its first 3 installments, placing it among the most successful film series ever created. Yet, success alone does not tell the whole story. The trend line suggests that Avatar is no longer growing, it is slowly declining. That does not mean the franchise is finished, nor does it mean Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 are destined to fail. However, it does mean that James Cameron faces a challenge unlike any he has encountered before. For the first time, he is no longer trying to convince audiences that Pandora exists. He is trying to convince them that Pandora still matters. Whether he succeeds may determine not only the future of Avatar, but also whether Hollywood's most ambitious cinematic saga can maintain its place at the very top of the box office. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more in-depth conversations about the global film industry. And let me know in the comments, should the remaining Avatar movies be dropped? I will be back with another video very soon. Until then, it's bye from Box Office Bhaskar.